I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I'm DJ Trump, I'm like a really smart person. I'm very intelligent, vote for me for president. I know words, I have the best words. You know I'm very rich, I'm not a politician. We're gonna build a wall, illegal alien prohibition. We're gonna win so much, you're gonna be amazed. Took a bullet to the ear, and I wasn't even phased. Lady, you're fired, you're out, I'm hired. Make America great again, again. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters. I know more about ISIS than the generals do. Trump flags for homes, for cars, and for all those voters. Fake news is the enemy of the people. The system is rigged, fake news tricks the sheeple. I have a very good brain and I've said a lot of things, own the best hotels and rock the boxing ring. We're gonna win so much, you're gonna be amazed. Took a bullet to the ear, and I wasn't even phased. Lady, you're fired, you're out, I'm hired. Make America great again, again.
I'm not a threat to democracy at all. They are a threat to democracy. I'm the one that fixed our military. I'm the one that knocked out ISIS. I'm the one. I did so much. I also took a bullet.
Fake news is the enemy of the people. The system is rigged, fake news tricks the sheeple. I have a very good brain and I've said a lot of things, on the best hotels and rock the boxing ring. We're gonna win so much, you're gonna be amazed. Took a bullet to the ear, and I wasn't even phased. Lady, you're fired, you're out, I'm hired. Make America great again, again.
From today and from the day I take the oath of office, we will rapidly drive prices down and make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again.
I'm Troy Thompson. Over the last 15 years, our family has worked hard to create a place we call the center of the universe. A place where our kids and someday our grandkids can come home to and laugh, have fun, learn how to work, pray, worship God, and be a place to celebrate life with all our friends. After a quarter century in uniform, I put away one set of boots for another, working on our acreage, improving the land, fixing some structures, and building new ones. We say, give back to the community, be useful, keep your hands calloused, and spread the gospel. This is a little place in a little state right in the middle of flyover country, from which cries out a voice in the wilderness to all who might want to listen, learn, and laugh along with us. This is our American dream. Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Man, I'm glad to have you on the porch with me today. It's a little cooler, but it's going to get warmer again. But man, fall is just around the corner, and that is, as I've said before, my favorite time of the year. This weekend, I'll be announcing the games for the Forest City homecoming football team. That whole game, and we're starting something new at Forest City at the high school there. They're going to have an athletic hall of fame, so we'll add that to the mix on top of all of the homecoming announcements that I always make every year. And then following that, on Saturday, the Waldorf Warriors, my alma mater, the football team, which my son Jack is now playing as the cornerback, we'll be facing Hastings College, which is out there in Nebraska, right in the middle, I think, of Nebraska. But they'll be coming to Forest City to experience Bullstorf Field, so I'll have those announcements to make. And Waldorf is doing something with called the Team of Honor. So the Team of Honor will be announced as well. So lots of announcing going on this weekend and lots of preparation for that. I have a show every Wednesday with the coaches at Waldorf University talking about football for 1 hour. I interview a couple of athletes and have the opportunity to talk about the last week's game and the game that's coming up. And Waldorf is 0-3, so boy, is it 0-3 or is it 0-4? I mean, it's not going well for them, but I'm excited for what they have lined up in the future. It's going to be a tough year for them. And it seems like the attitude of the team is still pretty good. Well, we're heading into fall, and I'm heading into a great weekend of football. I can say at least that my Minnesota Vikings are 3-0. So that's the football update, which is what you came to this program for every week. It's kind of a sports show. It's not a sports show at all. It is, however, just a conversation on the porch here at Sunnyside Farms and the opportunity to talk about the sunny side of life and things that are going on. One of the things that we talked about on our trip out to South Dakota, went to Yankton, South Dakota. First, we went to Spirit Lake, Iowa on Friday night and watched our Forest City Indians lose to the Spirit Lake Indians pretty handily. They lost pretty good. And then we stayed overnight in Spirit Lake, and then we went and drove out to Yankton, South Dakota, a place that I've never been before. And there's not really a straight way to get to Yankton, South Dakota. You have to, you kind of have to take the back way to get there. And the 2-lane highway is how you get to that spot. The place from whence Tom Brokaw, the author and the coiner, perhaps, of the phrase, the greatest generation, came from. So we were out there in Yankton, South Dakota, and the Warriors lost, but had a good experience regardless, and then obviously drove back and got back late at night. And now we're back home. So our weekends are full of football this time of year, and I don't know if you're a football fan, if you're listening to this, if you even care. I don't know if you think that soccer is actually football. But at this house, football is the American football, and it is what we love. It's probably, I would say it is our favorite sport. We love baseball. We love track. We even enjoy basketball. But football is our favorite sport, and that's what we've been spending our time on and spend quite a bit of time on, actually, as a family over the years. So I've seen lots of good games, and I've seen lots of really not good games, and I've seen some great games, which I think that kind of sums it all up. But on our way back last night from Yankton, South Dakota, I'm recording this on a Sunday, everybody, and I will tell you that one of the conversations to keep me awake as I drive 4 or 5 hours and to prevent my wife from playing her whatever games she plays on her iPad. I tell you, I get so frustrated because, one, I won't let anybody else drive because I don't trust anybody else to get me from point A to point B, wherever that happens to be. And as a navigator, 26 years in the Army, as a forward observer, I just really don't trust anybody, including Google Maps, which sucks sometimes, and did in this weird case on the way home last night. I don't necessarily trust the navigator. So I don't trust a driver. I don't trust a navigator, which means I'm the pilot and the navigator, and also the guy that's in charge of the radio. So I realize that puts everybody else in the car in a weird situation. So they look at their phones, they watch whatever they watch. My wife plays games, and every time she plays games on her, she plays games on her iPad. I should be clear about that. But then anytime she picks up her phone to use her phone, since it's her car that we're driving, then her car it's a better ride and it gets better gas mileage, I think. But it definitely is a better ride. And that thing it seems like every time she picks up her phone, it takes whatever I've got on my Apple Play off of the screen and connects to her weird communist Samsung, and then we have to go through that whole process 100 times in a trip. But anyway, we talked. Despite that, we had conversations about a variety of things. Started out with football. I won't bore you with those details, but then we went into some other things, and one of the things that we talked about was weight and where people in America are with their weight. And look, I could lose some weight. Now, I'm not, well, it depends who you ask. I would say I'm not obese, but I think that there are some video games that will remain unnamed, that if you stand on their little platform and they do their little assessment of you, they might say you're obese because they're made in Japan. And I don't agree with that, but I will say I could probably stand to lose 30 pounds or more, but 30 pounds for sure would get me, I think, to where I want to be. From the time that I was, stopped growing, sometime in high school, your feet stop growing, and that's your shoe size forever. And then you're just kind of in that weight group. I would say that between 185 and 190 pounds was pretty constant for me through high school and college. And I'm 5'11" or 5'10". I don't know. It depends on what you're measuring. But for the most part of my military career, I was 5'11". And the start of that was, so the first few years, I was consistently, without any type of, I could do whatever I wanted, eat whatever I wanted, and I did eat. The Army makes great big breakfasts if you're not in the field. 189 pounds, that was my number. Never had to worry about it. Didn't fluctuate at all. Obviously, you get older, things change. And when I got out of the Army, went into the National Guard, and was also working in the civilian world, that 189 bumped up to about 200. When I was in Korea, I think I weighed 175 pounds as an adult man, which I think is too light. I was able to have a custom-made suit made for me in Korea. The great thing about Korean tailors is that they have no respect for international copyright law. So I could basically pick out whatever type of suit I wanted in a catalog, design-wise, and they would put it together for me. They take great measurements, and they're great tailors. And I had this nice three-piece suit in 1998 when I came back from Korea, and it was quickly very, very much too small. Within 10 years, it was too small. But man, for 10 years, I really rocked that three-piece suit made in Korea with the Nike, the Nike emblem for the lining on the inside of the jacket. They don't care. They use everybody's products. So that was what happened there. But at some point, I went from 189 pounds to 200 pounds. And then that was my standard weight for at least 4 or 5 years. And then I think it jumped to 205. And then I was like, this is where I'm at, 205. And then it became 210, maybe 211. I was pretty happy in that range. And that lasted for 5-6 years or whatever. And then at some point, I was triple deuce, so 222 pounds. And at this point, I think in my military career, I was senior NCO, 222 pounds, and but not too worried about it. I realized I needed to lose some weight now and then. Obviously, a couple of times a year, you have to take your fitness test, and Your body fat is included in that, and the Army's got an interesting way of doing their body fat. They measure your neck. They used to measure your neck and your waist if you were a man. And then if you were a female, they would measure your neck, which is, if you're feminine, probably supposed to be slender. And then they would measure the narrowest part of your waist, which is different from a guy's waist, which is, at the belt line. Well, actually right around the belly button line. So that can be dangerous. But for a female, they would add a third measurement, which was around the butt. Well, it was technically the hips, the widest part of the hips. So good luck with that for some people. And that's how you calculated, by some magic of math, your body fat content. I never thought it was particularly accurate. It was probably more friendly towards males in the Army than it was towards females, I'm guessing. Although I saw quite a few female soldiers in the Army in my career that made me wonder, how they measured that. But regardless, I was triple deuce for quite a while. And then at some point, I think the heaviest I got in the Army was 230. And that's when I was like, okay, First Sergeant, you need to cut some weight. And I did. Of course, you can't grow a beard in the Army, so you can't even cover up your double chin respectfully. So it was pretty obvious that I needed, and I did. I cut weight. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, how we did that, and then what we're getting to. But the heaviest now that I've been is 236. And I'm under 230 right now, but I'm still the same height and maybe shrinking because I'm getting older, approaching that mid-century mark very quickly here. And if, like me, you're experiencing these types of things, you've probably tried lots of different diets and different things throughout your lifetime to not be chubby or obese. And yet America is very obese. Like, we're just out of shape. We're chubby. We're obese. Sometimes we're very obese. And that's not a good thing. I think we can all agree that we got a lot of fat people in America, and makes you wonder, like, how did that all happen? And I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers, because for one thing, I'm not a fitness expert. My fitness is based on high school sports and 26 years in the military. So my idea of fitness is probably maybe a little higher than the average Joe, but truthfully, still pretty darn average. Okay. And even now, as a nearly 50-year-old man, with my own gym and with the freedom, time, I'm retired, time to walk and run and do all of that stuff. I used to run quite a bit. I haven't run in a couple of years. Why would you do that on purpose? And I can tell, like, it has slowed me down. I can tell that I'm not quite as fit as I used to be, but still, my wife says, God bless her heart. She tells the kids, she's like, kids, a lot of dads, your dad's age, don't look the way your dad does. So thanks, honey. I appreciate that. I think she means it as a compliment. She means it positively, I'm pretty sure. I still look like I can throw my weight around in a positive way. I still look like I can do the things that an athlete can do. But the reality is, I'm getting older. I know I can't do all of the things that I used to do, and I'm not in the shape that I want to be. And I could stand to lose 30, maybe even 40 pounds. Maybe that's where you are. Now, I produce a podcast for a friend of mine who was a teacher of mine in high school, named Scott Bertelsen. He has a dinner with Mr. B, or Mr. B's dinner party, I guess.
Hi, this is Scott Bertelsen. I was a public education instructor at Forest City High School for 39/40 Hooks Counting years. And during that time, I learned a lot about myself and life, as I still am now in my retirement. That's why I am hosting Mr. B's dinner party, on this podcast platform. And I hope that you will join me at the dinner table for conversational morsels for the mind. Now, you may be wondering what that is. Well, you'll have to tune in to find out. But let me guarantee you, you will leave my dinner table feeling full and feeling satisfied.
Join Mr. B's Dinner Party from Sunnyside Farm Studios every other Wednesday.
Hope that you will join me for Mr. B's Dinner Party on this platform.
And that is just a great show, different from mine. He does reviews of TV shows and of movies. He talks about being a teacher for almost 40 years. He talks about his struggle with weight and being an overeater and part of the Overeaters Anonymous group. So since he says that on his show and I produce it, I feel like I'm able to say that he's part of the Overeaters program. And that has been successful for him. He has lost a lot of weight for quite a while. He has gone through the 12 steps on his podcast and his show, and he has helped people. People have reached out to him through the Sunnyside Farm Studios channel and through his website that we have, and then also through Facebook and so forth. So, and then just in person, they've told him like you've been very, very helpful, Mr. B. And so listening to that, as I do, because, I listen to his show. I listen to all the shows that we produce here at Sunnyside Farm Studios, and obviously including my own. And I also have to listen to it when I edit it. So I hear it a couple of times. And I find it interesting and very helpful. He struggled, as he would tell you very plainly, with his weight and with the foods that he eats, and he would call them alcoholic foods because he views it as a symptom of alcoholism, which actually I think is quite interesting, because I think that the reason that Americans are generally fat is because we have an addiction to sugar. And I'm not a dietitian. Don't take my advice for, health purposes. I have to, make sure that I put that disclaimer out there, but it's pretty hard to deny the fact that if you're drinking gallons of soda and eating tons of carbohydrates, which transfer to sugar in your body, then you're going to have you have a sugar addiction. In fact, I recently heard that the average American eats over 200 pounds of sugar a year. That's incredible. 200 pounds of sugar. I mean, think about that. You buy the little sugar bags. If you're a cook, if you're a baker, probably maybe in the 5-pound bag or maybe the 10-pound bag if you're a big baker. But 5 pounds, like that seems like a lot of sugar. And then multiply that, 40 times to get to over 200 pounds. And it's like, man, I mean, no wonder we're fat. Do you remember when Joe Biden was running for president back in 2020? The second time he ran for president. The first time he ran was back in the 90s or whenever it was. And he had, he called this dude fat. Like it was an argumentative term. Like that was his debate style. The guy asked him a question and he's like, okay, fat, you want to do some push-ups? Fat? Like his name for the dude was Fat. Couldn't come up with a better moniker, so he just called him Fat. Joe Biden's not fat, obviously, and he has stayed in shape. I think everybody goes through a kind of a balloon period in their 30s and 40s. And then he has obviously slimmed down with age, not only but physically, but mentally, clearly. But he called the dude fat back in 2020. And I think that actually could apply to about a third or maybe more of our population across the United States. Like you could just, instead of arguing with somebody, you could do what President Biden did back in 2020. And it's like, well, I'm not going to get in an argument with you. I'm just going to call you fat. Okay, fat, let's do some push-ups. let's do that. Push-ups are fine, and it's a great weight-resistant exercise with your own body weight. I did those for 26 years. And I will tell you that if you do them for that long, obviously not from start to finish, but if you do that many push-ups, you are going to screw yourself up. Like, it's going to hurt your shoulder at a certain point. You're probably going to have an elbow issue. There's something that's going to go wrong. That's just a lot of, and because that's what happens to me. Like, I can still do push-ups, and I can do military push-ups because that's the only way to do them correctly. I don't know what all these people in the YMCA and the fitness clubs are doing, but maybe they're doing it so they don't have problems later in life. Military people can do push-ups like all day long, and yet at the same time, there might be a lot of popping and cracking going on because at some point it's going to wear you out. And it's not my favorite thing to do, the push-ups. So, Joe Biden wasn't in the military, so he can probably brag about his push-ups being, 800 years old. But there's no way in his life that he's done as many push-ups as a soldier or a sailor or an airman. I don't know about sailors or airmen, but between the Marines and the Army, I'm pretty sure that he's done nowhere near the number of push-ups. And let's just not pretend that Donald Trump is doing any push-ups, okay? If he's doing a push-up, it's like a little orange thing in a tube, and he's pushing it up to his mouth because he likes that sherbet flavor. But regardless, you could probably call 30% or more of Americans fat as a moniker and not be completely wrong. Because we are overweight, and I'm one of those people, and maybe you are too. I remember growing up and never thinking about that. And I was a husky child. I always said if I was going to write a musical about my life, which I'm sure would be fascinating, but if we were to do that, it would it would probably just be called Husky Pants, because that's the kind of pants that I wore, particularly in elementary school. I was a Husky Pants kid. When America bought most of their school clothes from places like Sears and Roebuck and J.C. Penney and Montgomery Ward, they all had Husky sections for the kids that were a little more solid. The kids that today, and for the last 15, 20 years, I've always rooted for in baseball and basketball. I'll pick a kid out on another team, and I'll look at them and I'll see their chubby faces and their red cheeks, sweaty heads, and their husky bodies. And I'll say, I'm gonna root for that kid. He's not on our team, but that's the kid on the other team that I'm gonna root for. They're always the husky ones. And I was a husky kid. My brother was not a husky kid. He was a slim kid, which is annoying because that's where all the normal people's clothes are. And even to this day, I don't shop at Banana Republic because that's just a company that's founded by slim people and slim people that continue to be slim. And I don't know what's wrong with them. I wouldn't trust them to lift a tree, or, like if there was a situation where if there was a guy, like an executive from Banana Republic, and say it was an accident and they had to lift the car off of the child, that dad is going to let his child die because he does not have the physical strength to lift the car off of his child. So he made a lot of money as a Banana Republic executive, but his child is no longer here because he's too weak. A husky parent like myself have no problem squatting a car in an emergency situation off of a child. And our backs be damned. So I'm not too disturbed by the fact that I still to this day cannot wear or buy anything from Banana Republic. I once had a jacket. It was a pea coat from Banana Republic. It was a beautiful pea coat. I wore it one time. And then it was in the closet for about 8 years. And then it went to Goodwill because it's just not my body style. I'm more of a Duluth Trading Company type of body style. And I've always been that way. Thankfully, because of America and sugar, there's a lot of Duluth Trading Company body styles out there now. and that's okay to a certain degree. But we could all still lose just a tad, a husky or not. We could all lose just a little bit of the weight. Now, when I was growing up, besides being husky and going to the husky pants section of Montgomery Ward with my mom, grabbing my chubby little hand after shopping easily for my brother's pants, and going into the dark, not well-lit corner with very few mirrors and apparently very few dressing rooms of Montgomery Ward to get the husky clothes, I also experienced something called Cambridge. Now, Cambridge was, back in the 80s, a diet. It was a big deal. And my Aunt Alice sold Cambridge. I think it was a pyramid scheme, to be honest with you. And it was just it was a shake. They had different flavors, and the whole idea was that you would replace your meals with these Cambridge shakes. And that would be your diet, that you had everything you needed in there and fewer calories, and you would then, not, you'd lose weight and everything would be fine. And people did lose weight like they do on any diet. And then they're like, I'm not going to drink these mediocre shakes for the rest of my life. And I'm going to go back to eating. And they went back to eating. And the next thing that you know, they're obese or as obese or more obese than they were before. That was my first experience with diets. I didn't participate in the Cambridge diet because I was a child, but I watched the effects of that swing in our family. And so then in my life, maybe like yourself, you have tried a lot of different diets. And so my wife and I have done different things. I think the first thing that we did together was the juice diet, where there was a documentary on Netflix called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, or something like that. And it was this Australian dude who claimed to nearly die because he was very obese and he had high blood pressure and all of those things that come with obesity. And he decided that the solution would be to take all the nutrients out of vegetables and just run them through a juicer and just drink the juice. And then they came up with a variety of juice mixes. So they would tell you, the recipes, put some beets in with some other terrible things, and you'll come out with this delicious, this delicious juice. So we bought a juicer, and the juicer is still great. It's a great machine. It's great actually for making jelly. That's what juicers should be used for, to be honest with you. If you really want real apple juice, you can use it for that. If you want real orange juice, fine. But if that's your diet for, say, 3 months, a couple of things are going to happen. One, you will lose weight. You will. You will get all those micronutrients in your body. That's true from the vegetables, minus the protein part. And then you will, there will be moments when you do not trust a fart. Quite a few moments, actually. I will tell you that. Somebody that's listening to this right now just spewed their coffee out of their mouth because they know what I'm talking about. So I apologize if you blew coffee all over your windshield or whatever. But yeah, you can't trust a fart, and that's a bad situation. And we did that for about 3 months. You do lose weight. Look, it has a lot of fruit. That's what makes it tolerable. You would how about you put like an apple in here with this 6 sticks of celery, and then some kale. I'd like to know who's making all this kale. I think there was a whole kale phase in America. We had kale, raw kale, kale chips, kale this, kale that, and kale juice. It doesn't matter what stage or form kale is in, it still is gross. And that's fine. Kale is it's a healthy vegetable. I'm not discounting the health value of it. It's just like, ugh, I mean, come on. So if you mix that according to that diet with some, apples or an orange, a little bit of lemon, and, all of these things have sugar in them, so fructose, and that makes it all seem more palatable. And I did that, and then I lost weight, and then I couldn't take it any longer, because why would you do that to yourself? Like the rest of your life, you can't eat at a restaurant, you can't eat anything because you got to eat juice. That's crazy. And actually, that dude came out with another documentary where he was like, I was totally off. That's actually not a very healthy diet. There are some health problems with that also. I'm not doing a very good Australian accent, but I don't have a lot of listeners in Australia, so it probably doesn't matter too much. And the truth is he kind of backed off of some of that stuff. Okay. So the next diet that we went on, and maybe you're with me on that, is this I didn't do any of the calorie counting stuff. That's too much math, and you got to get the app on your phone and all of that. I didn't do any of the Weight Watchers, and none of that. I didn't trust any of that. It seemed very corporate to me. And anytime they have big spokespeople, I'm like, I don't know if I can trust that. My wife did those things on and off, and those things also work for a while, but it's like then you become obsessed with counting calories. Some people get so obsessed they weigh their food. They weigh it. Come on, that's too much. So the next thing that we did is I had heard these advertisements on the radio for a long time, and I just kind of demolished celebrity endorsements, but there's a local DJ to the area that I kind of grew up listening to, and he was always a rotund guy. Let's call him well-marbled. He was a well-marbled guy. He still is kind of well-marbled to a certain degree. And I listened to him, and I thought, well, I could probably... He's been advertising this thing for 2 or 3 years now, and that was the Plan Z diet, and that's for Zola. The founder of this company is called Zola. That's her name. And so finally, I was in the Guard, and I called the number. It was, I don't know what particular day of the week it was. Let's say it was a Thursday about noontime. They're based in Chicago, so noontime Central Standard Time. I called that number for the Plan Z diet, and I'm not kidding when I say I got a hold of Zola. So she would do radio ads, and she has a very distinct voice, and although I don't hear very well, I can differentiate between people's voices pretty well. And so I called this number. The person answered the phone. How may I help you, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, gosh, you sound like Zola. She's used a different name. And she's like, well, I am Zola. Everybody is out on lunch break, which made me like, what's that all about? And we talked for a while. I said, well, I love your ads, and I know this, local DJ here, and she knew him because she's done ads with him. And we bought on to the Plan Z diet, which also works. The Plan Z diet actually is a very good diet. In fact, I would use elements of the Plan Z diet as a first sergeant to try to help recruits and people who are trying to join the National Guard lose weight. And also people that were in the National Guard who were struggling with weight to the point where they were going to be discharged because they were overweight. And if they wanted to follow that, then they were successful. So the Plan Z diet does work. It's essentially what my wife would call a diabetic diet. In other words, you're removing sugars. And I think after 50 days, you'll probably lose 20 or 30 pounds on the Plan Z diet. And they do a great job sending you information and making you aware of foods that are on the market. And the recipes are all, well, for the most part, they're very good. Zola is actually a food critic. So when she made recipes that were adherent to her diet, they were also very good. And so to this day, our family, I'm pretty sure that our youngest son, Colin, has no idea what taco mixes taste like. Like you go to the grocery store and you buy the taco mixes and that. I don't think he has ever had a taco mix, at least at our house, because we've always made our own taco meat, and we've used the Plan Z. We still to this day use that. Now we have it memorized, so we just know how to make taco meat, and it's not particularly difficult, but it is not the stuff you buy in the store. So that was good. The difficulty with the Plan Z diet is that after you're off of it, you are supposed to discipline yourself and know what you can tolerate and what you can't. And obviously there's a lot of foods that are eliminated, and so you get away from it. And so we would do that, and we lost probably 30 pounds very easily. You'll lose 20 pounds within 30 days, and then after that, the next 20 days, you might lose another 10. And then after that point, you can start exercising, because they don't want you to do any exercising because that just makes you hungry. And that's true. So I am an advocate for that diet, the Plan Z diet. It costs a little bit of money, obviously, to get that information and to buy those recipes. And it does work. But it's a discipline. And we fell away from that discipline. We still keep certain things from our favorite recipes, and we'll go back to it. We went back to Plan Z probably 4 times. And it does help you lose weight for sure. So if you're interested in that, I'm an advocate. I would say, yeah, check out the Plan Z diet. I think Zola's a great lady, and she obviously has great recipes, and they're doing great things over there. However, I don't know if it's entirely sustainable, and that's the sad part. And that's the problem with any diet, because it comes down to discipline. So then there's this guy named Vinny Tortorich, and he is a Hollywood trainer. He's been on Mike Rowe, and I'm part of his subscriber list now. And that is the no sugars, no grains diet, the NSNG diet. And that works extremely well. It works very well. And if you're a guy like me who loves to eat, meat, it's perfect. It is, kind of along the lines of the Atkins diet, but it allows you to do other things. And so that's what I'm on to next. So if you're like me and you are, and no, I'm not getting paid. I'm not endorsing necessarily. Well, I'm certainly not paid to endorse any of these. But listen, friends, I could stand to lose 30, maybe 40 pounds. And I think the way that I want to do it is by the NS, no sugar, NG, no grain diet from Vinny. And you can look that up, and there's lots of reasons why you should do that. But the bigger conversation is, what does it eliminate? The sugars and the grains. And the sugars come from the grains. There is sugar, and then there are the grains that we get sugar from. And the body takes this chemical of sugar in its various forms, and there are, I think Vinny said it's now up to a couple hundred terms that are in our food. And at some point, we just decided that we were going to not cook on a regular basis our own food. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like, I have the Julia Child cookbooks. We have probably 80, maybe 100 cookbooks, and we love cooking in our house. Like, food is an important part of our dynamic. My wife is an outstanding cook, and I like to cook. And I think that what it comes down to is, like, if you look at our grandparents and you look at the generations before that, they were not particularly obese people. And I think it's because they cooked their own food. And I have been an advocate of natural foods, and not trying to sound like a hippie or anything like that, but like, natural foods do help us be healthy. And whether you look at the Mayo diet, which is kind of a Mediterranean diet type thing, or it's basically eliminating processed foods, eliminating the big grains from your diet, eliminating sugar from your diet. And man, that is so hard, because sugar truly does make the medicine go down. And sugar is in everything. Sugar is in all of our foods. And you think about, like, just if you're going to have friends over, you say, well, we need a couple of entrees. We're going to do this. And then you guys bring a dessert or a salad. What do they bring? They bring a dessert salad. It's like the Midwestern, this is all going to be better if we can just add a lot of sugar to it. And they're not wrong. Sugar is like crack. I mean, I've never, taken crack or anything like that, but it's like a crack cocaine situation. Like, your body becomes addicted to sugar. We are addicted to sugar as a nation. They keep putting sugar in our foods, in everything, and it's like nothing is safe from sugar. So maybe Joe Biden can call us all fat, because we are totally addicted to sugar. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't particularly have a sweet tooth. At least I don't think I do. And yet at the same time, you can't make alcohol, well, without sugar. That process requires sugar. And that's why you use grapes. That's why you use apples. That's why you use grains. So that whole process has sugar involved. And it's like, well, I mean, you give up sugar, you're going to give up alcohol. Good Lord, how do you get through the day that way? My question is like, how do you lose weight? Well, it's probably the no sugar, no grains diet. I don't think that the grain industry, I don't think that the farmers are guilty of making America fat. That's not what I'm saying. And I don't think that the fact that we have GMO foods that now can produce more bushels of a particular type of product per acre make us, as a nation, evil. But I do think that the incredible sweetness, say corn syrup, for example, it makes it a lot easier. And business-wise, it makes a lot more sense to use corn syrup, which has the same effects as sugar. You just don't have to use as much, but they use a lot more. You can put a lot more in. Now it's sweeter. Now we love it even more. We love it so much. And now we've got all this extra weight. So the no sugar, no grains diet is what I think I'm going to do. And if you're like me, you could stand to lose, 20, 30, 40 pounds. I think that's pretty average. I hope that's average. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Or I've heard amazing stories. I mean, this Vinny's diet has, the people that have done that diet now across the country, we're talking millions of pounds lost in body weight and getting back to a healthy weight. Vinny would say, and this is based on what I've heard him say on other podcasts, because he's not on my podcast, but he'd say, look, the people that have lost this weight have lost millions of pounds. He'd say that the exercise is truly the fountain of youth. And he started out as a fitness trainer, but it's not going to help you lose weight. You can run on a treadmill or walk all you want, but if you eat poorly, you are going to be what Joe Biden would call fat and challenge you to push-ups. So I think what we have to do, what I have to do, what maybe you have to do as my listener, if you're interested in this, is like maybe we need to do the no sugar, no grain thing. And it doesn't cost anything to get on the mailing list. It doesn't cost anything to get the PDF of basically what you have to do. So it's a little different than the Plan Z in that you have to pay for it, but you also get recipes, and so that's kind of helpful. And then you get that taco recipe, which is delicious. And we've always, like I said, eaten tacos that way for the last 10 years. But I think that what truly has to be done is we have to separate ourselves from sugars, which is very difficult for myriad reasons. Maybe for me, sugars in, say, Pabst Blue Ribbon beer can be a challenge, or in any beer for that matter. And maybe that's the problem. But as I get older and I think to myself, well, I need to lose weight. I think that we need to extricate ourselves from the sugar industry. I don't think grains are terrible, but I do know that the food pyramid is turned upside down, and there's plenty of articles about that you can research, as I have done. And so it gets back to things that we love to eat anyway. I mean, I love food. I love meat. I prefer steak. I don't need the potato, which is basically sugar, and I don't need, all of the other side dishes that come with Thanksgiving. Maybe it's just meat, and that sounds very Atkins diet. I'm not saying that you can't have other things, but there are just causes and effects for all of that stuff, including, hate to say it, the PBR that I do have here at the bar at Sunnyside. Maybe that's the problem. Probably is. But if I want to be healthy, if you want to be healthy, I think the thing that we all might need to do is admit that we've got an addiction, an unhealthy addiction, without necessarily having to go to Overeaters Anonymous meetings like my friend Scott, who is doing a great job on his podcast. Maybe what we need to do is extricate ourselves from the sugars and the grains. And I would be interested in hearing from you, because this is a journey. This is the 21st century. This is how we talk about things. I want to take a journey, and I would like you to come with me. What amount of weight do you want to lose? And maybe we should just reach out, or you should reach out. I've already reached out to Vinny, and I've gotten that information. It's his information to give out, so I'd encourage you to check that out. And maybe you want to lose weight, and maybe we can do that together. And maybe by the time Christmas rolls around, when we really start throwing on those extra things we don't particularly need in our diet, or Thanksgiving, even before that, we still have a couple of months, maybe we could cut 20, 30 pounds or more. And I would love to hear from you and share with everybody that listens to this program the successes. I think it would be great if we had a sunny side of life number of pounds that we've lost, and I'm going to be a part of that with you. Because, look, Triple Deuce is not where I should be at my height, and 230 is definitely not where I should be, and maybe you feel the same way. So it's kind of a weird episode, but I'm interested in starting something with you and trying to get into the new year. Like, there's no reason that we need to start on January 1st. I keep finding reasons to put things off. Maybe you do too. I think we can combine exercise with a good diet, and maybe a little fasting that goes along with that. So all of the things that we're doing here anyway, verbally, on the sunny side of life, whether it's the Bible in a year or it is just what we're talking about now. Maybe those are, and keeping your hands calloused, staying busy, staying active. Maybe those are things that you're interested in doing. And so let's do this together. And boy, there you go. That's the challenge. Oh man, I don't know if I'm looking forward to it or not, but I am looking forward to keeping the same clothes, my favorite shirts, because I'm starting to look a little tubby in the shirts that I wear. And if you are to join me, and let's be a part of the sunny side of someone else's life. I want to thank all our friends and guests for stopping by for this episode of The Sunny Side of Life. All the Sunny Side of Life players who stopped by, creative support provided every day by my incredible wife Heidi and our fantastic 4 boys. Thanks to every one of our listeners. That means you. A big shout out to my brothers and sisters in uniform holding the line around the world. Share the word, folks. Let the people know what we're up to. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow us on social media. All skits are written or adapted and directed by me, Troy Thompson, and are produced here at Sunnyside Farm Studios and delivered to all platforms by Buzzsprout. Music and sound effects are provided by Soundstripe. The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. Now, none of this is possible without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life, liberty and pursuits, be in Christ, and made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.